This is a completely valid question and something I'm so happy to talk about because I'm super honest with my finances, with my business and my personal life. So let's go into it. So the main reason I got into £15,500 of debt is because basically I'm a shopaholic and I'm a spendaholic and I get a dopamine hit from spending money and I love buying things. And a couple of years ago, we got a puppy, and puppies are really expensive for all the training, the stuff that goes with it. And also puppies require a lot of time. And so I had a lot of time off work. I basically went part-time for like 6 to 12 months. And it meant I was earning a lot less, but still spending as much, if not more, than what I always was. I guess my first brush with debt was having like a student overdraft. Having a student overdraft when you were like 18, fresh into university, is dangerous and something that I think honestly should be banned. But that was my first interaction with debt. And then I got my first credit card when I was like 19 and put like a trip to New York on it. And it kind of just went from there. But during COVID, I completely got a handle on my finances and I had zero debt. We bought a house and saved the deposit completely ourselves while renting. We paid for an expensive wedding, like a £13,500 wedding, completely ourselves, saved up everything. I bought a car for £11,500 with cash, like literally had the money, no finance. And so I was really good with my money. And then what made it worse and spiral again was honestly getting the puppy. And then I was back at work properly at the start of this year and I was like, I need to stop this. This is ridiculous. £15,500 of debt is not normal. We shouldn't normalise this. So yeah, that's how I got into debt. I've always had a spending problem. I'm not going to lie. I really like buying things, but it's about moderation now and living within my means. And yeah.
How exactly did I rack up £20,000 of credit card debt? I've actually got a breakdown now. So if you don't know me, I'm Meg and I'm on a debt-free journey to pay off this debt within 2 to 3 years. So back in 2013, when I was 18 years old, I got a student overdraft, interest-free, of £1,500. That was just the start. I spent that. In 2013 or 14, I got a money transfer from Tesco of about £2,000 to pay back the overdraft and get a bit extra. I was just young. So then I had total debt, about £2,000. In 2016, I took out a £10,000 HSBC loan. I can't remember what interest it was, but I think it added on about £800. So anyway, total debt. I didn't use that to pay off the Tesco. I just used it to live and have fun. So total debt, about £12,000. 2017, the 10 grand loan was still being paid off. Then I had a £3,000 credit card from HSBC. I used that for holiday and some other bits. That Tesco card was still there. Also, my overdraft had built up back up again because while I paid it off, my spending habits had just not changed at all. So I haven't added that part up. What, about £16,000 by then? 2018, it went, and then from then on, from 2018, it went up, down, up, down. I consolidated some of the debt onto our mortgage, which made it shoot right down to, I think, as low as about £7,000 at one point. My partner got a lump sum of money at one point as well and paid some very kindly towards my debt. At its highest, during maternity leave with my second child, it was £25,000. And at its lowest, yeah, it was under 10,000, maybe about 7,000, I think. Currently, I have just over 20,000 separated over 3 different credit cards on 0% interest rates. The point was my spending habits never changed. They never changed. So while it went right down and gave me a huge sense of relief at one point, it just went straight back up. I never changed it. And the amount of times I would get a money transfer to pay off my overdraft and then it would rack straight back up. My spending habits never changed. And that's why I kept falling back into debt. Like a magic wizard could have come along at any point, or I could have won the lottery and all the debt could have gone. And I still probably would have racked it all back up again because my spending habits hadn't changed. But that's what I'm learning to do now. And that's what I have done a month and a half of. And I've actually paid my debt down for the first time in years. So that's a bit of a breakdown. It's a journey. And I've got £672 paid off so far. Small steps, about 40th of the way through. But still plenty of time to go. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay, so I think I'm finally ready to tell you guys how I got myself into I'm rounding up, $1,000 worth of debt at the ripe age of 26 years old. So when I was 18 years old, I had the bright idea of going to an out-of-state college. Mind you, my upbringing was very toxic. I grew up in an Asian household where financial literacy was not taught, and I grew up very poor. That being said, my parents did provide what they could, but at the end of the day, it was a very toxic household, and all I knew is I wanted to get as far away as possible I could from this house, and I wanted to get a college degree so I could make big money. So I wanted to become a social worker essentially at the end of the day, and that didn't pan out for me. When I went to college, I am a first generation college student. I didn't understand going out of state. I didn't understand student loan interest. I didn't understand how to apply for scholarships. I didn't understand financing. I did not understand any of that. And so I take full accountability of not doing it myself and, doing more research at the end of the day. But when I had graduated, I realized that there was no way that I could go into even more debt getting my master's. So I have a bachelor's degree, and I ended up at the age of 22 not continuing school to get my master's because of how much debt I was in. So about $26,000 worth of that debt is from federal, and then $46,000 is from private student loans. And my mom's credit was so bad at the time that I wasn't able to even apply for a Parents Plus loan, so I had to pull out private loans and essentially do that. Now, I do have $5,000 in credit card debt. That comes from a different situation where I was in an 8-year relationship with a boy who always told me he was going to take care of me. I thought that was going to be my ticket out, essentially at the end of the day, to pay down these loans, but it was excuse after excuse and not getting his career together. And so I essentially was taking care of two people under one household. And so I did accrue credit card debt, and I had broken up with him over a year ago and still trying to recover from all the financial stuff that came with it. And at the end of the day, it is my life. I take full accountability for what's happened to me so far and where I am now. It's just hard to be by yourself and look at debt because it can be so lonely, and that's mainly why I made that video. I really appreciate the people that have been leaving really nice comments. I would love if people left more like debt advice or what stuff that they've done, or even just kind words, because people have left some mean comments in the last one. Lastly, the last thing I want to address is my nails and my hair. So I actually invested in my own hair, doing it myself when I was 18 years old and learning how to do it on YouTube. So these products that I've bought have been from way back when. My mom does nails, so I get my nails done for free. Anything that you guys see on me has been gifted to me. And essentially those are my only two debts: student loans and that $5,000 of credit card debt. I plan to make more videos about my debt payoff journey. I've already started paying stuff down, but I would love some of your guys' advice. So thank you for listening.
Here are the worst purchases that I ever made that caused me to go into debt. Number one was online courses. The ones that had like some accountability factor to them really were successful. Otherwise, if there was one that was like, oh yeah, at your own pace, it was a giant waste of money. And most of those cost me thousands of dollars. Number two was clothes. Like, I have an entire bed full of clothes that I need to fold, and I honestly don't need that much. Like, why did I buy all these clothes when I only need enough for like a week and then to wash them? And now I'm so stressed out because my house is so cluttered with clothes. They're everywhere. 3 is makeup. You only need a little bit, and I find myself just using the same thing over and over and over again. I only need like one palette that is small. I only need one mascara. Why do I have like 4 right now that are all open and I'm not even using them consistently? Number 4 is manicures and pedicures. They just ended up ruining my nails. Like, my nails were so brittle before. I think that in the future, all I'm going to do is just get them, and not like the gel acrylic, but like simple ones for like future events that I have to go to. Not that I have like a ton of weddings I'm going to. I don't have a lot of friends, so I don't need to impress anyone. And I work from home. Like, who's gonna look at my nails except me? Number 5 is expensive perfume. There is no reason why I need to have a designer label perfume when there's so many like awesome, really awesome dupes out there. When you're buying a bottle of perfume, you're usually buying the label. And now that we're all like waking up to reality, it doesn't matter where you got the thing from. It doesn't matter the brand. It matters if it's quality. I think I'm going to do 10. There's a lot of things that I stupidly spent money on. Number 6 is fillers. I feel like fillers were the biggest waste of money. I now finally feel like they're becoming less and less prevalent in my face. Like, this stuff lasts for years and no one gave me the heads up. They're like, oh yeah, it's gonna only last like a year. Like, I'm still seeing the filter that was messed up under my eyes. Like, that's insane to me. And it's been like 6 years, 7 years. No, maybe longer than that. I think 8 years. Who did I think I was making the money that I did at the time? And it wasn't like I was making like minimum wage or anything, but like, who was I spending this kind of money on fillers? And they are thousands of dollars a pop. Like, I would walk out of that med spa spending at least $1,200. That's a rent payment for me back then. That was a rent payment. Number 7, along with that, was skincare that they would sell at this med spa that would just completely F up my skin for the next like 3 months. Honestly, like, the basics work so much better than I could ever get for $120 at a med spa. Once again, you're paying a premium and not getting a lot out of it when there's so many better alternatives out there. This one might be a little weird, but number 8 is flats, like the shoes. They are so uncomfortable on my feet. I always get blisters. I don't know like who I am wearing them because they just like mess up my feet every single time. And every single time I buy a pair, I'm like, oh, this is going to be different. Like, they feel so comfortable in the store. Absolutely not. They are not for me. Number 9 is cheap and trendy jewelry. Like, I thought I was some like baddie who got like this necklace whoever celebrity wore, and I got it for like cheaper because it was a dupe. They would end up like, you know, that metallic-y smell that like bad jewelry gives you? Like, I would end up smelling like a metal like steak and in a garden. And then I would also end up like my skin would turn green. Like, what is up with that? Not worth it. Not doing that again. Number 10, and I'm kind of struggling with this right now, is the urge to buy a dress for a special occasion. Like, I'm going to show up to my friend's wedding in a dress that they've probably forgot about or have never seen, and I don't need a new one to just feel like, oh, this is like the new me, like, look at me, blah, 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 blah. It's not about me at this wedding. It's about the bride. Who cares if I have a brand new dress? I'm going to wear one that I know is solid and it looks good on me, and I don't need to spend any more money. This was a long one, but I hope that this video made you realize that you do not need to spend money on so much crap.
Okay, I'm going to be so honest here. The real reason I'm in debt isn't my rent or my car payment. It's the way I altered my lifestyle post-grad. It's getting 3 drinks at dinner instead of 1. It's Ubering instead of taking the train. It's getting takeout because I'm too lazy to make dinner. After college, all of a sudden I have a salary and I forgot I needed to watch my expenses, and all of a sudden I'm in debt. So I started using the Ditch app to help me get out of it. Basically, it rounds up all my purchases and sends it towards my debt. So when I do Uber or get drinks, it's also paying off my debt. I've made over $1,000 in extra payments
just through my regular spending. So here's to getting out of debt post-grad.
How I got myself $23,000 into credit card debt. I started dating a guy when I was around 12 or 13, and I dated him throughout middle school, high school, and into my early 20s. I'm not going to get into the super juicy details of this relationship, but just know that it was mentally, physically, emotionally abusive. And I am so grateful to be out of that relationship now. But I did make some bad financial decisions whenever I broke that relationship off 3 years ago. When I was in that relationship, I was controlled a lot, and I wasn't able to hang out with my friends. I wasn't able to travel. I wasn't really able to do anything, and that kind of led into my spending problem whenever I left that relationship. So I broke it off. I started doing solo trips out the wazoo. I was doing solo trip after solo trip, and guess what? I didn't have any money. I was working as a teller in a bank. I still work in a bank, but I've since moved up positions. But I was working as a teller, so I wasn't making much. And so in turn, I was putting it all on my credit cards because I wanted to have these experiences that I felt like I had lost out on. Does that make sense? I pretty much did the same thing over and over and over and over again. I went on so many trips. I fell in love with national parks and hiking. And eventually I found myself $23,000 into credit card debt. And now I'm on a mission to pay that off as quickly as I possibly can. I know what it feels like to feel like you're drowning in your credit card debt, your minimum payments, and a lot of the times if you have high credit card debt like I do, the interest rates are just eating up any monthly payments that you make. It sucks that I put myself in that situation, and if you're in that situation, all you can do is get yourself out. And if you only have one stream of income, like your full-time job, I highly recommend getting a second stream of income, which is what I did. The digital marketing is what I did for my second stream of income, and I am so happy I did.
By age 24, I was in well over £50,000 worth of debt solely due to gambling. And so that I didn't have a mental breakdown day to day, I would carry this delusional belief that I could get myself out of it if I could just access enough money. I could win it all back somehow. And I was taking out loans, and every time I took out a loan, I would say it was to consolidate my other debts, and I never paid them off. The figure just grew and grew, and my parents didn't know. And one of the most stressful experiences I had in the whole of my active gambling addiction, which was over 20 years, was on this day. I'd taken out a loan with Marks and Spencer's for 12 grand. And I had to be at home to meet the courier so that I could show him my ID, show him I lived at the address, do the paperwork on the doorstep, and then they could release the funds the following day. And I remember, I think they gave me like a 90-minute window of when he would be there. And I was at work, and I remember I told my boss that I was going to the dentist so that I had a little bit extra time for my lunch break. But I had to drive from Basingstoke to Farnborough, which was about 25 minutes, do this necessary business, and then drive back. But at the same time, not let it clash with my mum coming home from work, who worked part-time, and every day she'd be in around 2:15, maybe 2:20 at the latest. So I remember I just flew out the door, sprinted down the M3 in the car, obviously, fastest I've ever driven, and get there, and he's not there. And then I'm sat there just thinking, he has to come soon. This process can't take that long. He can't sit on the driveway doing paperwork for when mum comes in. We've got to wrap this up. And I remember he came right about 10 minutes after I'd arrived there. The process took about 10 minutes. I've never done it so fast in my life. He must have thought, what on earth is up with this guy? That I didn't want to make it seem like I was rushing too much, but at the same time just wanted him gone. Probably should have told him that I didn't want my mum to know, and that might have, but at the time I was just too nervous and too apprehensive about the whole thing. Made it back to work about 5-10 minutes after I said I'd been there. No one really said anything. Mum never knew, but the heart rate and the adrenaline from the whole morning at work leading up to that, to dashing down the motorway, to just hoping that the timings collided, just so stressful. Such a toll on my nervous system over the years gambling that it was no wonder that by the end of it I was having panic attacks, couldn't sleep, horrible experiences.
Did I get myself into $10,000 of credit card debt before the age of 25? Let me tell you, this is a cautionary tale. When I graduated college, I had no credit card debt. None. Literally not a penny. So I did not know how soul-crushing credit card debt could be. So after I graduated, I took a job, my first big girl job, moved to Ohio. We don't talk about that. Ohio's where I learned about credit cards. I took a pretty good paying job for being just out of school in the industry that I was in. I think I was making like $35 an hour, which was like really good, I thought, for being 22 and being in the apparel industry. I thought I was wealthy. I was spending money like I was wealthy. I had a clean slate, no credit card debt. I could have built myself a very solid financial foundation. I could have started saving. I didn't have a savings either, by the way. I had no debt, but I also had no money. I could have built myself a solid foundation, and I could have made some smart financial decisions. But I did whatever the opposite of that is. I paid for the nicest apartment that I could afford in Ohio, which was pretty nice because it's Ohio. Paying for like weekly workout classes. I did boxing like 4 times a week. Do you know how expensive that is? I had no business doing that. Should have been at Planet Fitness. I was shopping, buying whatever clothes I wanted, buying whatever I wanted because I was wealthy. And this is where things take a turn. My friend says, let's go to Europe. She says, let's go to Europe. And I say, okay, where, when? I'm in. Again, I didn't have money. I did not have the money to go to Europe. But what I did have was a Delta credit card. I had a Delta credit card that I had applied for because I knew I was going to get the Delta Sky Miles to go with it. So I bought a ticket to Ireland. I think it cost me $500 after the whole Delta Sky Miles thing, which honestly, it was a steal. I was like, great, I can totally afford this. A few days before our trip to Ireland, my friend texts me her ticket and she's like, this is what time I get in. What time do you land in Dublin? And I look at my ticket and I'm like, that's not the day that I get in. I had bought a ticket for the wrong day. If you know me, it's not shocking, unfortunately. But she's like, it's cool, I'll just hang out in Dublin until you get there. And I'm like, hell no, like you're not staying at this hostel in Dublin by yourself for 3 days, and not on my watch, not while I have a credit card. So I put an entire new flight on my Delta credit card, and this is where things take a turn for the worse, ladies and gentlemen. I put a $1,200 flight to Dublin on my Delta credit card. Canceled my other flight, no refund. Canceled it, no refund. So at this point I had close to $2,000 on my credit card just getting to Dublin, okay? But I'm like, money comes back, memories don't. Get to Europe. My credit card is coming out every 2 seconds. Ding, 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 ding. I didn't care because I was like, I have a good job and I'm gonna pay all this off and money comes back and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I honestly don't even know how much I spent because I didn't keep track of it. I did not even look at my credit card till I got home. I didn't look at my bank account. I just ding, 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 ding. And then I actually ended up moving to LA. I took a job which was a 50% pay cut. So I was making $18 an hour living in LA. But I knew I had to make that sacrifice for myself because it was a good brand and I needed that on my resume. I needed my foot in the door in the fashion industry in LA because Ohio was not cutting it for me. I needed to be in the action. I wanted to be in fashion. I wanted to design. Like, I was just so passionate about being in the fashion industry. I didn't care. I would have done it for free, honestly. I would have done it for free. But I was living in LA making $18 an hour. I didn't have a savings because I saved nothing from my time in Ohio. So I proceeded to open a few more credit cards. I learned about the Amazon credit card and I furnished a lot of my new apartment with my Amazon credit card. Yeah. I was putting bills. I'm like, don't put your bills on your credit card. Like, don't do that. My friend's like, you want to go to Disneyland? I'm like, yeah, let's go to Disneyland. Money comes back. Also, other huge thing, when I first moved to LA, the day I got there, my apartment fell through. I hadn't signed the lease yet, but like I was just waiting to hear back and like just hoping and praying because my job started on like Monday. And I got there and they were like, nope. I did not know what to do. I didn't know a single person there. I had nowhere to stay, nothing. I had to put all my stuff from my U-Haul in a storage unit and live in a hotel. I lived in a hotel for a month while I was trying to find an apartment because it is so hard. So I finally found one, but I couldn't move in for another month, so I was literally living in this hotel. And guess who paid for that hotel? Delta Amex, baby. Yeah, I put an entire month of a hotel stay on my credit card.
So at this point, I'm in like $10,000 credit card debt. I was 23. Had to start working my ass off because all of a sudden I was hitting my limits on my credit cards, and I was like, oh shit. And I was applying for new ones and not getting approved, because you know what I did when I left Ohio? I broke my lease, which was not allowed. No subletting, not allowed. Don't break your lease or you're gonna pay for it. And I did. They sent the rest of my rent to collections, which by the way is still there, because honestly, collections sounds like it's not my problem anymore. Sounds like my debt was bought by somebody else. But it screwed over my credit score though. Couldn't get any more credit cards. I was screwed. So I had to deal with the credit cards that I had and the max amounts that I had at the time. So what did I do? I got some part-time jobs. I was a golf coach for little children on the weekends. I'm not a good golfer. I started driving for Uber. That was interesting. With gas being like $6 a gallon in LA, I made like negative money doing that. All this to say, I worked my ass off in LA to try to get myself like above water, which I really didn't at all. So when the job offer came in Philly, which is where I live now, I took it so quickly, jumped on that shit, moved out to Philly, and have been working my ass off ever since to get myself out of credit card debt and build a savings and a life for myself. Started posting on TikTok. I have paid off $3,000 or $4,000 from TikTok, actually, of my credit card debt, which is the entire amount of what I've earned from this app in the past like 3 or 4 years. So it's not nearly as much as other creators are making, but I also don't do it full time and I don't really try that hard. So super grateful that I was able to do that though. I also won a jackpot at a casino. Wouldn't recommend. I'm not telling you to go to the casino, but I did, and I won $1,600. I'm just saying. And what did I do with that? I paid off a credit card immediately. And that's what sucks about being in credit card debt, is every like cent that I get that's not necessary for like my bills and my rent goes towards credit cards. Like I could have had $1,600 to go on a trip or do something fun or actually like buy something for myself or put it in savings. Everything I make has to go to my credit card debt. But anyway, I'm on a track to pay off all of it by next month, which I'm so excited about. And this is a cautionary tale. I had so much fun in my early 20s, but I regret so many of those decisions. So if you are considering using your credit cards in the reckless way that I did, I beg of you to not. Just don't. Interest is insane. My credit card payments have been like $400 a month for like 3 years. It'll make your life hell. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So be smarter than me, but still have fun and still go to Europe. Okay, bye.
I'm drowning in credit card debt. And I don't know what to do. If you're seeing this video, you probably are also drowning in credit card debt, and I wish I knew how to help you, but I don't, because I don't even know what to do for me. So here's the story. I'm 30, I'm a stay-at-home mom of 2, and I have something called cystic fibrosis. And back in November of last year, I left my career, and I had been a working person ever since I could get a permit, because my health was deteriorating, and my husband and I decided it was more important that I stay home with the kids and stop trying to work at the same time and consider my health first, because obviously, if you know what CF is, it already shortens my life expectancy, and my kids deserve for me to be here as long as possible. So we did that, and everything was okay, because my husband worked really hard, and he figured out a way to bridge the gap between the two incomes, and it was good until it wasn't. And then we started putting stuff on credit cards, and we couldn't pay those credit cards off like we were used to. And then a couple months ago, we regrouped, we figured some stuff out, and we found some extra money. We did some extra things to make some extra money, and we started putting that towards the debt. But then our escrow went up. It was severely deficient, so our mortgage payment went up by $400 a month and took all of that extra money that we had found. And now I don't have the opportunity to go work. I don't have the opportunity, because of my health, to do anything else other than just take care of my kids and myself right now. And come next year, my husband's gonna try to do more stuff on the side from his actual career to make money, but I am monetized on this app, so this can be a job for me, and I can try to make money off of views on here. So if you relate to me, you can just watch these videos. I get qualified views, and then I'll make a couple cents, and I can make micropayments onto my credit card with that money to help out my husband, because he's already working really hard. And I think that's it. The question that I want to ask you is, did you grow up with parents in debt? I did. I'm curious if you're in debt or your parents also in debt. And I'll see you in my next one.
Story time of how I got into $25,000 worth of credit card debt by the time I was 23. And yes, unfortunately, this is a true story. So rewind back to 2018, I had just dropped out of college for the first time. There was this online course that I wanted to buy, learn how to drop ship. Basically, I thought that I was going to be able to start this online store and make $1 bajillion. And the course was $2,000. So I maxed out my American Express credit card. So that was the very beginning. That was the first thing I ever did that kicked off the credit card debt journey. To give you a little more context, I had dropped out of school and was going to Africa a semester to do mission work. I was in Africa and had another credit card. So the one that I had maxed out was maxed out. I had another credit card that I got when I initially went to college. It had a $500 credit limit on it. I blew through that so fast. I'm just buying food, buying souvenirs, shopping in the markets and stuff. So by the time I got home from Africa later that year, now I was sitting at $2,500 of debt. Both of these cards were interest free for I think 18 months. So I wasn't paying interest on them, but they were maxed out. As I'm telling this story, I realize how dumb I'm making myself sound. Honestly, you guys, I just did not have the education about credit card debt or about spending wisely, in my tool belt, so I just genuinely didn't know. Around this time that I got a third credit card, and I think this one had a $2,500 limit. At this point, I had moved out of my parents. I was still not in school, and I was working full-time at a coffee shop. I was living with my childhood best friend, and we lived in this little apartment together, and I kid you not, you guys, we would just go to the mall and blow $300 at Aerie and American Eagle. We would just go on shopping sprees because we were bored, and we both weren't in college. We both had credit cards, and we were just so dumb with our money. That period of my life lasted about 10 months, and then I decided to go back to college. This time I was transferring to Grand Canyon University out in Phoenix, Arizona. I know that when I started school there, I had about $6,000 worth of credit card debt. Again, I wasn't working consistently. I had a coffee shop job on campus when I went there. At this point, I had just started so many bad spending habits, and I was so reliant on the fact that once I got out of school, I'd be making good money, and it would just be super easy to pay them off. So the next 3 years, I'm just going to lump together because I was a college student. I went on 2 separate Europe trips during this time of my life, completely using my credit card, zero cash, zero saving up for it. I would just go shopping and buy clothes and buy new shoes and buy concert tickets and trips, spend as if I was a trust fund baby, and I was not. I would throw a couple $100s at my credit card debt, but by the time that I graduated college, I was 22 and I literally had $23,500 worth of credit card debt. I know it just sounds so dumb, and how could you accumulate that much at such a young age? I was just so numb to it. I just kept spending, and I just kept telling myself that once I graduated, I'd be able to pay it off super quickly. That was not the case. I ended up getting married to my husband at 24, and we spent our entire first year of marriage paying off this stupid credit card debt from my college years. It took so much work and sacrifice. I just have so many regrets, and I hope that if this finds one college student who is maybe in the same boat, I hope this encourages you to reel in the spending, because real life hits you fast when you graduate, and you're going to be making money, but you're also going to accumulate so many more expenses like rent and utilities and groceries and all the things. But yeah, thanks for getting ready with me. I'm always here if you have questions about your credit card debt or how to pay it off. But happy Monday, and I love you guys.
2 years ago, I was in over $100,000 of debt, but today I'm debt-free, so let's talk about it. So you might be thinking, how did you get into $100,000 worth of debt? And you're probably thinking it's student loans. It wasn't. It was worse. I had an idea for a website that would bridge a huge gap in the creator market. I, to this day, still think it was a really good idea. The problem is good ideas are sometimes really expensive, especially when you're doing everything financed 100% by yourself. I would say that this business took up the majority of my debt, probably around $70,000 worth of debt. And the reason for this was because as I was building this site using contractors, things just kept needing to be fixed, more and more money was needing to be put into it, and like I said, I was financing it all by myself. Essentially, I was funneling all of my content creation income into this new business idea, which became very expensive very quick. Whenever something would need to be updated or broke within the website, I would have to pay multiple thousands of dollars. Plus, just the general maintenance of a website like that cost multiple thousands of dollars per year. And I didn't make any money off of the website. I think if I could go back in time, I would have told myself that just because something's a good idea doesn't make it a good business. And I would definitely never go in debt for something like that again. What started this snowball effect of debt was because I was putting so much time and effort into building this new business that I didn't have enough time to create as much content, which was my main income. So then that started to suffer as well. So I was making less, and everything that I did make was being put into this business idea. It's important to note that the business that I was making is not even around anymore. It's completely closed because I could not make any money off of it. and it was costing me thousands and thousands of dollars. So unfortunately, I did have to close it. So it kind of was a massive waste of money. I guess it was a learning experience. People have paid more to learn less, but I am not happy about the fact that I spent so much money trying to do something and ended up failing. But I guess failure is part of life. It was just a very expensive failure. Another main proportion of my debt, about $20,000 worth, was just from lifestyle creep. I think that when you work in the content creating space, there's a amplified feeling of the saying, keeping up with the Joneses. You see people who are your age making way more than you, getting nice cars, getting nice houses, and you think, oh, there must be something wrong with me if I can't keep up with that. Or if they're making that much and I'm not, I need to fix something about myself. Or maybe I need to invest. If I had like a better car for content, then people would, click on my stuff more. If I had nicer clothes, people would click on my stuff more and I'd get more views and I'd get more, people watching my content. I think that that's a very sad and addictive feeling that a lot of people in the content creation space can relate with, that you always have to be keeping up with the latest trends. You need to have nice things, because then what are you all doing it for? Basically, I overspent on things that I generally did not need. I got a way too nice car that I don't even have anymore. I don't even have that car anymore. I was traveling so much, and then I was just spending money on like equipment and outfits because I thought, oh, I can't wear the same outfit twice in the same content kind of thing. I don't want to be reusing things. And it was just a slippery slope of constantly feeling like I needed to upgrade parts of my life, which just led to such a debt deficit because I was not able to put enough time into earning the income that I was spending because of the business that I was trying to build at the same time. I just wish I could get that money back that I spent on things. I know you can't, but it makes me sick to my stomach how much money I spent on trying to like be perceived in a successful way rather than just like stacking cash and having a bank account that is secure rather than living life on the edge and just like traveling and doing things that I honestly couldn't afford, but I felt like I needed to do to prove something. The last part of my debt that I don't regret at all, which is shocking to hear, but hear me out, it was to move my dog and myself over to where we live now, which is in the UK. That was expensive, but I'm not the kind of person that could ever leave my dog behind, and I would have paid any amount to get her over here. That was about $10K worth of debt between getting my visa and moving my dog over, which obviously I had to move her over by plane. It was the most expensive single purchase I ever made in my entire life. I do not regret it for a second. I regret that I had to put it on a credit card and pay for it for a long time, but I 100% do not regret getting my dog over here to live with me, because my dog is my family and I would never leave her behind. And I would say the cost of getting my dog over was about $7,000, $8,000, and then my visa was about $2,000. If I can go back in time, the only thing I'd change about that is I would have saved that and not put it on a credit card, but I was kind of in a panic. The reason that I had to put that on a credit card is because I didn't have enough money to be saving it as my income took a dip, because of trying to save that other business that I was building and lifestyle creep of buying nice things and having to pay for things like just things I didn't really need. So if I could go back in time, I would have saved money for that. And now that is something that I do. I don't even use credit cards anymore. I just save the money, and then when I'm ready to buy it, I buy it. But if I can go back in time, I would have just saved the money for that, because that is 100% an expense I do not regret. I never would regret bringing my dog over here. So that is my debt story. That is how I got into so much debt. And maybe I'll make a part 2 of how I paid it all off. But now that it is all paid off, it is such a weight off my shoulders. And I think hindsight is 2020. I can say all these things to you and look back at them and say, oh my God, what were you doing? Why did you do things like that? And it's definitely been one of the most humbling experiences of my life to effectively have to start over to like fix the mistakes that I made, because no one else made me do that. That was 100% my responsibility, and I should have definitely taken control of the situation before I put myself in such a hole. But I'm so grateful that I fixed my mistakes and was able to come out of it before it got worse. But this is my first time sharing something like this, so let me know if you like it, and let me know if you want to hear how I paid it all off.
Wow, let's dive into this one. I love this question. How I got into $16,000 worth of credit card debt. Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm 27. I have $16,000 worth of credit card debt that I'm very publicly trying to pay off. I've not made a lot of great choices in my life. Let's just start with that. I got pregnant at 18 and had my first daughter at 19, and then I had my second daughter when I was 21. And then a couple years later, I married an absolutely awful human being, piece of shit, abusive person that abused me and my children. I had to leave while he was at work in the middle of the day with pretty much everything that could fit in my car. I then moved in with one of my good friends who also had children, and we kind of combined our lives, and I had to completely rebuild with basically nothing. Most of my debt is from rebuilding my life after that whole situation that I went through. And then once I racked up the debt, it was just so daunting for me to get rid of it because, again, I'm a single mom at that point, didn't really make a lot of money, and had two young girls that were counting on me. I felt very trapped in the debt, to be so honest with you. And that's not an excuse, and that's why I'm taking full accountability of all of it now, that I am trying to work my way out of this, because it was so daunting and hard to get rid of that it just seemed helpless, that I just kept adding to it. So unfortunately, I've not made great choices financially, so here I am proclaiming that to the world and trying to make everything better financially for myself and my family. Side note, I have the most amazing, supportive partner now. My life is fantastic now, but if you're in a situation like that, get the fuck out.
How my husband and I got into nearly $52,000 worth of credit card debt. So 5 years ago, we got our first house ever. We're still in this house. Up to this point, we were both debt free. We didn't have any type of debt at all. Both of us were making significantly less when it came to our salaries or our hourly wage. We knew going into getting the house, it was going to be a really huge expense and we would probably be paycheck to paycheck, but we also knew the market was not probably going back down, and this was in 2019, right before COVID popped off. We got the house, and as new home buyers, we were not aware of all of the expenses that go into that, and I mean like furnishing the house. So that's where the debt started. It was like $2 or $3 grand at the time, and then wanting to decorate the house for certain holidays. Groceries went on to the credit card sometimes, because at that time I was only making like $19 an hour, and I think my husband was at about like $70K. I would say probably like 2.5 years in, we were probably at $25,000 worth of credit card debt. We were not financially literate and didn't know a whole bunch about like consolidation loans and stuff. So we actually did end up getting a consolidation loan, which meant all of the credit cards had been zeroed out. That was our biggest mistake, because we were not in the mindset to pay off debt. We eventually ran those credit cards back up with different experiences, trips. It just got out of hand, and we ended up doubling our debt after consolidating our loan, which is how we ended up with nearly $52,000 worth of credit card debt.
Since the phrases Delulu and girl math are going around, I figured I'd do a quick story time about how I got into debt. Because it's good to be Delulu about your goals and standards, but not your current reality. Okay, so I moved to New York City about 2 years ago now. I worked a job in sustainable fashion for about a year, and I did not like it, so I knew I needed to get out of it somehow. Last summer, I was just really not happy with how my life was like carving out in general, and so I quit alcohol for a bit and I started posting on TikTok. By the end of 2022, I was so fed up with this fashion job, but I had all of these connections through it, and they saw that I was posting content as well and said, hey, we have friends with businesses, you can help them out with their content. And so I started getting all of these clients and referrals. In January and February, I was still in like decent financial standing, but my savings was just draining by the day, and I started putting stuff on my credit cards. In my head, I was like, okay, like I just need to put stuff on my credit cards for a bit, because this is funding my business that's going to take off, and then I can pay it all off and all is going to be okay. That is not how it happened. So this year has been a wild roller coaster of making a lot of money, then not making a lot of money, and then seeing this insane amount of money for one piece of content and then not. And it's just been like crazy, right? It's opened my eyes. But all this time, I wasn't adjusting my lifestyle to weather the storm. I've always been a little bougie. I just like nice things. I believe I deserve nice things. I believe I deserve any experience I want in life. But just because you want something doesn't mean you have to have it right now. Anyway, so fall was approaching. I was like, I am stressed out of my mind. Do I even just go back home to San Diego for a bit? And then boom, I get a job. So I was momentarily relieved. I was excited. I'm like, yeah, I get to stay in New York. And they fired me within a month. The content was doing well, but they were paying me a questionably high salary, which makes you easily expendable in this market. I'm grateful I got that job, and I'm grateful I lost it when I did, because it gave me the means to stay and figure my shit out for a little bit. But as soon as I got the job, I started spending money like I got $80K that day. And so getting laid off from this job was kind of my final straw of reminding myself that I am the only person that can have full accountability for my habits and the life I create. And so while it sucks to be in credit card debt and have to pay it off, do I regret leaving my job earlier this year and taking a risk on myself? No. Do I regret not adjusting my lifestyle habits this year? Actually, no. Because I am now feeling the consequences of acting that way, so I have to change. I literally have to change. I have no choice. If I would have blew up in March and just made 20K suddenly in a month, I wouldn't have known what to do with it. I wouldn't have had the habits and responsibility to actually keep and save that money, because I've always had this habit of overspending. So now I know it's a part of my journey that I have to go through breaking this bad habit so that I can have the abundance that I am supposed to have. With that being said, do I recommend you being in credit card debt so that you can have your silly little matcha and treat every day? No. Do I recommend you being in credit card debt because you saw something on TikTok Shop and everyone else has it? No. Absolutely no. Stay away. Anyways, if you do want to change your habits, I'm on this journey right now. We're gonna fucking do it. I'm already starting to pay down my credit cards. I did get a job, you guys. I should just make another TikTok about this. So we do have a stable income source, but it's still freelance, so your girl has freedom. Anyways, love you. Be smart. Be smart.
I've never really talked about this, but during my freshman year of college, I studied abroad in London, and I had a credit card for the first time, and I actually went into thousands of dollars, I think exactly $4,000 in credit card debt, simply because I didn't know how to use it. Like, Lisa, what do you mean you didn't know how to use it? All you do is you pay off the card, right? Giving me a credit card with a sky-high credit limit was insane because I had a shopping addiction. It was my first time living alone, away from home. I was in a different country, so I didn't understand the exchange rate sometimes. And on top of that, the word minimum payment really fucks you up when you're like 18, you know? So for the most part, I did pay off the card. Like, I was so scared of going into debt that I would pay it off that day. I would buy something off of it. At the end of the day, I would make a payment. But then it got to a point where I was using it all the time. So then I started making minimum payments at the end of the month because I thought that's what it meant. And you know, it was my first semester of college. I was busy trying to make friends. I was going to class. I was in another country trying to explore things. So I never really thought to ask anyone about it. And I never clearly looked at my finances. Back then, I wasn't that financially savvy. I was making adult money for the first time doing YouTube. And it was just like not top of mind. I was literally a kid. And on top of that, being 18, I was just like, oh, I'm getting started with my credit building early. My mom told me about this. I got this. It's totally fine. But I didn't do a lot of research on my own. And it had foreign transaction fees, and I studied abroad in London. So every time I spent money on my credit card to be safer with my money, because I didn't want to use my debit card, like my bank card everywhere, and get scammed. I don't know. I was like really paranoid. I had a transaction fee on every single transaction. The transaction fees on top of interest, because I paid the minimum payment, resulted me in being in thousands of dollars of credit card debt when I could have totally avoided it because I had the money to pay. I literally just didn't know what the words meant or looked at the app. So, half my fault. After that, I swore to God I would never be in credit card debt again. When I realized what was happening and my mom had to tell me, I paid off my entire card and I never overspent my means ever again. But I also learned more about credit and got better credit cards over the years to build my credit in college. But not everyone knows about this. I realized not everyone knows you have to build credit on your own. A few of my friends were authorized users and stuff, but they didn't know they had to have their own line of credit to build better credit so you can get approved for apartments, better student loan rates. and all those types of things. Full circle moment, I now actually work at a fintech startup that helps students build credit with debit cards, and it's called Fizz. They don't know I'm making this video, but some of you guys have been asking what I do for work in my day job, because I always just say home from work and I don't say what I'm doing. But I work on the marketing, social, brand side for a fintech startup, which is Fizz. Fizz is a debit card that builds credit, which is super cool because if I had Fizz as a freshman, I definitely wouldn't have overspent my limits. They have daily auto pay as well, so I wouldn't have missed a payment. I wouldn't have to think about it. And I was sitting abroad, you know, like I didn't want to think about the nitty gritty like that every single day. I was focused on how pretty London was, you know. The best part, it has no fees, like no fees at all, so no foreign transaction fees. So if I had this card studying abroad, I wouldn't pay all those minuscule like percentages on every single one of my payments, which racked up to a lot of money eventually after 3 months. So if you're looking for a card that helps you build credit, a safer, easier way to build credit, and with no fees, Fizz is a great way to start because you're not going to get like a Chase Sapphire as your first card as a travel card, you know, because I use that now for travel. But I went from having thousands of dollars in credit card debt when I was 18 to now working at a fintech startup post-grad, and I help others build credit without going into debt. So pretty cool.